one more. Right, that's wonderful. Thank you. That was my fear. I think I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning going, "Oh, I didn't press record." It's in my head. Lovely. Yeah, that's great. Okay, well maybe we will kick off and as people join, we will let them in. So hello everybody, welcome. My name is Julie MacDonald and I am the head director, sorry, not the head, the director of strategic funding consulting at Mantra Strategy. So appreciate so many of you logging on, taking 40, hopefully only 45 minutes out of your morning to join us to discuss what is a very important topic. I think we're all in a bit of crux with the way the world is at the moment. So really that alignment and getting funding success by aligning your vision with strategic investment is so important. If anyone who couldn't join, we will send this link out afterwards. So you will have a copy of it. You don't have to take too many notes. We'll send the presentation as well. So I'd love a really interactive session. So please do pop any questions in the chat or put your hand up. Kira might keep an eye on the hand ups because I can only see 4 people on my screen, and we'll hopefully answer everything we have. So we've a pretty jam-packed 45 minutes ahead. We've obviously a good mix of charities, social enterprises, and businesses online. So we've tried to make it relevant for everybody. And as I said, I will try and do my best to be done by 11:45. So whether you are here as a charity, a social enterprise, or a business, it's obviously the same pressure pot that we're all in at the moment. But between Trump and fake news and an impending election in Ireland and a housing crisis and all the terrible things that are happening around the world, it really is quite important time, I guess, for us all to take a step back, to think and reflect, and to really contextualize what we're doing. And all of that is such an important part of aligning your long-term vision with investment. So for those, I'm moving between 2 screens here, so my mouse has gone a bit haywire. Let me try and get it back here. So for those who don't know Mantra, who are new to Mantra, we are Ireland's impact creation consultancy, and we really work with our clients in the space of culture, leadership, and values. And we see them as such critical drivers of advantage, but mostly when aligned to purpose. So we've worked with about 120 different clients in the last just over 4 years since Lisa Nicole started Mantra, doing a range of work in this space. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through. So I'm going to just start with a quick temperature check. We love Mentimeter at Mantra. It's our favorite new toy. So if everyone could just take just a second just to scan that QR code, it will bring you to Mentimeter. And I will just ask, I'll leave it up just for one more second. And then Kira, if you could switch to the other screen, that would be great. Oh, I've just found the chat. Lovely. And then Kira will pop it up in real time. We'll see the results come in. Can everyone see, is the first survey question coming up?
Yeah.
It is great. All right, lovely. So Kira, I'll ask you just to switch then when you're ready. Do a quick. Lovely. You okay, Kira? She there. You switched over? You have a look of fear on your face, Kira. Are you okay?
I have actually switched over. It should be showing. It's
Oh,
showing
okay.
on my screen. Is it on your side, Julie?
No, it's not mine, but let me stop sharing. Maybe that's why. Ah, yes, that's why I couldn't
There
see it
you
'cause
go.
I was still sharing. Wonderful. So we'll just go back to that first question. Go back one.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah, distance
yeah.
to grow. Yeah, lovely. So the first one, when we look for investment, and we're probably very guilty of this in the charity sector, maybe less so in the business world, but do you look at your funding gaps and try to fill them? So, right, here's my budget. This is what I've got in the door. This is what I need to get in the door. And there is a resounding yes. No one says no, and sometimes. And I think we are all trying to make budgets work for ourselves, and often that's what happens. We go in for the bits and the pieces, the websites and the so on. So that's really interesting. Thanks for that. So just to the next one. We always communicate the big picture, our why, to current and potential investors. So that's great. So 4.2, the average say that you do. That's brilliant. Well, you can log off then because today won't be huge news to you. Only joking. And the second one is our funding strategy is aligned with our long-term vision. So we're sort of halfway in the middle there. And again, not unusual. We are often lose sight of our long-term vision when we're trying to fill the holes in the budget, which sometimes feels like a leaky bath. It's coming in one end and going out the others. Excellent. Well, that's just to give us a little bit of a sense of where everybody's at. So give me 1 second to share screen again. Oh, did that share? No.
No, not yet.
Sorry. The technology. I have a theory that I have a magnetic field around me. And whenever I try and use technology, something breaks. So my apologies. Here we go. Share current slides. That is showing, but it's also showing all of my notes.
It's still showing your notes. Now it's perfect.
Now it's perfect. Phew. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you all for filling that in. So we'll jump right in how to align your vision with investment. Now, there's no silver bullet to any of this. You know, a lot of it, some of this you will have heard before. So it's really just a bit of a sense check of some of the things that we would talk to our clients about and some of the things we would do with our clients. So not surprisingly, we have right at the top, start with your why. You will have heard this on previous sessions. The why is probably the most used word in mantra strategy. And it's a very simple concept, start with your why, but not surprisingly, it is one that many organizations really struggle with, from charities to businesses, etc., and alike. So with the why, really it's an inside out type of approach, starting with the why and then moving to the how and the what. We're all very guilty of standing up, whether it's a presentation or in a document, and saying, "Hi, I'm Julie, I'm from Mantra. This is what we do. This is how we do it." And we totally lose sight of the why. But very simply, your why is that single purpose, that sort of burning belief or cause that unifies and really drives your organization. So consider it your driving force. And you will all have come across Simon Sinek, I'm sure, and his golden circle. He's been doing the traps for a long time, but there is some great YouTube videos where he really distills this down and articulates it and gives some really good tools on how to address your why. And we will talk about that a little bit later on if we have time. I've got one of the mantra tools at the end of the presentation. So that's number one, start with your why. Secondly, articulate your vision. So now you know why you do it, but you also need to articulate to other people why you do it and how you do it. And it's a really important part. Again, we often forget the importance of this. This is how you're bringing people on the journey. You're showing them the transformation that can occur, how they can be part of something great. And all of that really fuels the energy as to your vision and what you're trying to achieve. So I'll give you an example from one of our own clients. We've been working with the wonderful folk at As I Am. I don't think there's any on today. Hopefully I'm saying the right thing. But we've been working with them for a long time on various projects. But we did do a organizational strategy with them. And we were trying to get them to bring them up, get out of the weeds and into the waves, essentially, when we were asking them, but why? But why? But why? And it was, well, we run children's programs, we have adult support programs, we run employment programs, but why? We just keep drilling it. When they answer, we ask them why again. And what we got to with them was that it was to give people with autism the same chance. Much more visionary than we want to run a children's program to help children with autism. We want to give people, adults, teenagers, the same chance and opportunities in life, whether that's in the workplace, in the home, in the community, in school, and so on. So it took a lot of workshopping and getting to that core, getting to the nut of it, really. But when you've kind of talked about your why, ask yourself why again, and then ask yourself why again, and eventually you will filter yourself right up to that unifying vision that we talked about with Simon Sinek. Now let's do the next one. So know your story is my third top tip. Everyone can tell a story. Not everyone can tell a great story, I might say. But it is just so, so important that we understand what our organization's story is. Whether you are a charitable cause, whether you're a consultancy like Mantra, there's always a story, and it's the reason you exist. And as humans, we are hardwired to respond to stories. We've been listening to stories since we children, once upon a time, and all the fairy stories. Probably the reason I never got married, because I always thought fairy stories ended on the wedding day, and like, what came next? What happened after that? But again, it is in our sort of makeup as humans to respond to stories. And you'll have all heard the wonderful Maya Angelou quote, probably been rolled out a few too many times, but I've never come up with anything better than it. That I've learned that people will forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And story is such an important part of that. So this, if you've seen me talk before, you've probably seen this before, so I apologize. But again, I always come back to it. Probably 10 years ago now, Harvard Business Review plotted 150 hours of the most popular TED Talks, which our pal Dan Plotta was included in. And it was pitted against Aristotle's ancient formula of storytelling. So that's a pretty old formula, but they plotted these talks against it. And they found that the most popular, only 10% of time was spent on ethos. And ethos is in Aristotle's formula. And essentially, that's the credibility piece. That's the I'm Julie. I've worked for Mantra. I've been the CEO of nonprofits. I am a credible source to deliver this information. Really, people don't care. 10% of the time is spent there. 25% was spent on logos, not logos, logos. And that's the facts and the data and the statistics. And this is the bit we mostly go to when we deliver, whether it's a pitch online or it's a grant application or a council application. We spend a lot of time in the data. We spend a lot of time telling people the facts. And again, only 25% of the time was spent there. 65% of the time, which is a huge amount of the time, I'm just going to move this down, sorry, was spent in storytelling and emotion, the pathos. And there's a reason this works. There's a reason that this is kind of gets it's in the science, if you like. So when you talk to somebody and you talk about data analysis, you actually appeal to the neocortex, which is the outer part of the brain. And that's all rational. That's where we make rational decisions and so on. When we tell a story, we actually appeal to the limbic brain or the middle parts of the brain. And this is the part of the brain that's responsible for emotions and trust and loyalty, but most importantly, for decision making. So this is where it's so important, whether it's a written document or a physical pitch, that you actually communicate from the inside out. Absolutely critical. When we hear a story, three things happen. First of all, cortisol is released, and that's the part of the brain that forms your memories so that you retain the story afterwards. The second thing that happens is dopamine is released. This is the part of the brain that keeps us engaged, that keeps us actually listening to the story and wanting to know what comes next, what's the punchline. And the third thing is oxytocin is released. And this is the part of the brain that builds relationships. Now, there's only a handful of things that release those three things at the same time. And I actually love this. They are story, childbirth, sex, breastfeeding, and giving your money away. So effectively, women can do all of them. Men, you only have a few to do. So you really have to give your money away a lot or have a lot of sex. But it's quite interesting that these three things happen for very few things, but story is one of them. I don't know if you've come across a researcher called Paul Zak. He's an amazing researcher, but he's been studying this neuroscience space for a long time, for over 10 years. And there's again some great examples online, some great videos he's done. But he's found that when you increase oxytocin, you're building that empathy, that trust and connection. So he did this research where he showed a test case, this video of a man bringing his child to the zoo. and they're walking through the zoo, but there's no audio. You're just seeing the visual of the man in the zoo with his child. And he tested blood pressure and brain reaction and so on. With the second group, he did the same test, but this time he told the story. And the story was that the man was bringing his child to the zoo, but his child had a terminal illness. And the man was feeling so sad that this might be the last time or the only time that his child would be see the joy of the zoo. Anyway, he then tested the blood pressure and the brain, and he showed that brain was, was peaking. He then asked both groups to make a donation, and the case that had heard the story, 58% of them made a donation. And in the video where they didn't show the story, there was very low donations. So it just shows it's in the neuroscience. Yes, sorry, it was 56%. So effectively what that all says is that emotion drives behavior. There is always a place for rational thinking. And obviously, pardon me, that's a place where we draw conclusions. It can inspire action. But when we're such emotional animals, I guess, we do want to appeal to that outer brain, or sorry, inner brain, the limbic brain, when we are trying to align our funding strategy. So very much kind of good thing to stand back and think about what your vision is and how the story connects to that. And that's how you will connect to those potential funders. Is anyone any questions there before I jump on? All good. Right, I'll move on to the next one. So their interests, it's not all about you. So you've obviously got your why, you've got your story, you understand your vision for your organization, and now you want to go and start looking at your investors, whether that again is government or grant or donors and so not. And anyone of a certain age will remember the wonderful movie Beaches, the first movie I remember literally crying myself to sleep over. And CC Bloom, the fabulous Bette Midler who played the character. And I actually use this line in my personal life all the time. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think of me? And it's so true. We are so guilty of going in to tell people about ourselves and not thinking about our audience. What are their touch points? What are they interested in? What are their values and goals? It needs to be relevant to their business. For them to really buy into your vision, they need to have a vision too for their own business. And that takes research. So, it astounds me. I've seen it over the years when I was both the CEO of a charity and I was guilty of it when I was as a fundraising role, going in to deliver a pitch to a funder and not having read their annual report or understanding the cues that they give you. There's a lot of data and intel in, annual reports, websites, and so on. And effectively, what we're doing is the response of art management. We are eliciting a response in normal communication, and we'll all have learned this in communication theory. You are a sender, and you have a message to send to a receiver. In this world, you actually flip that on its head. It's about the receiver. It's not about you. And we always say at Mantra, don't me or we all over them. Anywhere you have the word me or we in your pitch, change it to you or your or their. It's not about you, it's about them. When you're looking at the art of response management, it's good to think, first of all, who is your audience? And Kira will know this because right before we came on, or yesterday, I said, can you send me the who's registered for this event? Because I need to know my audience. I need to know who I'm talking to. It's the most important part. Whenever I do presentations and they say, oh, sorry, I can't tell you who's in the room because of GDPR. I'm saying, well, how am I meant to deliver the presentation? I don't know who I'm pitching to or presenting to. It is all about them. And when you're determining that audience, you want to understand not just who they are, but what are their attitudes? What are their feelings? What are their biases? What are their behaviors? What do they believe in? So incredibly, incredibly important. The next step is, what response do you want to elicit? And obviously in this world, the response we want to elicit is funding. We want you to invest in our vision. So you've got to kind of construct your pitch to elicit that reaction. I always kind of come back to 4 things in any presentation I do. What do I want you to notice? What do I want you to think? What do I want you to feel? And what do I want you to do? And obviously the do is probably the donate or the invest. So incredibly important stuff. I'll give you a quick example. When we did the CEO sleep out in Australia many moons ago, I'm known in the land down under as the girl who slept with every CEO in Australia, not in the true sense of the world, but we put them out on the streets for the night. And we had a target list of CEOs that we wanted to invite. Now, we could have just sent off the invite because they had the word CEO in their title. But we researched the hell out of them, every single person, to try and find a connection or a cue. And there was this wonderful woman, Christine Holgate. She was the CEO of Blackmores, the vitamin company. I think she's the CEO of Australia Post now. And when we did our homework or did our research, we found that actually as a child, she had spent time in a refuge with her mom. So she had experienced homelessness herself. Now that's very personal to her. So it had to be handled very carefully. But our CEO reached out, had a very sensitive chat with her, and she decided she'd like to really get behind the event as an ambassador because she had experienced this in her own life. If we had just gone in asking her to be CEO because or to partake because of her experience as a CEO, we'd have missed that opportunity. She went on to raise, I'm not joking, I think $250,000 on her own that year. And then the following year, she came back and she said, I'm going to challenge 9 other women to do CEOs to do the event with me this year. But we want to actually do it a bit differently because when women are homeless, they tend to sleep together in groups and one stays awake at all times. So they take turns staying awake. So Christine actually brought this to the event that the women would sleep in the same spot and take turns spending an hour awake to keep watch, if you like. And through her 9 other women, they raised $500,000 the following year. So that one cue of experience that we got from the research, we were able to translate into such a powerful experience. And in fact, that was the only year of the sleep out. We ended up having 50% women and 50% males at the event, which is just kind of unheard of in the CEO world. So let's just say it worked. Okay, so final note on that, don't me or we all over them. So we would talk again a lot about this in mantra, sell the car, not the clutch. And this is what getting to your why, how you do it. So as fundraisers, I'm sorry, I'm losing my notes. As fundraisers in particular, and I know we're not all fundraisers on here, whether it's a business or a charity, we're often going in selling the clutch. We need a new website. Oh, we have to move office. We want to take a digital transformation project. We're going in with this little piecemeal. And there is a place for that because obviously you need those things funded, but that's not what you're selling. You're not even selling the car, you're selling the lifestyle. And this is obviously a very fancy car. I picked the one that appealed to me visually the most, but we'll all have our favorite. That's the vision piece. It's the where's this car bringing you? How is this car going to be a mark of who you are? So just always keep that in mind when you're putting these together. It's you're selling the car or the lifestyle, not the clutch. Oh, sorry, gone again. Oops. And I think as I said, we are all very guilty of that, because we are filling our budget gaps, and that's not what our funders potentially want to know about. So I have 2 quick examples, sticking with the car theme. The first one is our good friends at Tesla. Now, I am not an Elon Musk fan, but I am a Tesla fan. And I know when these cars came out first, you'd see one drive by and you'd be like, wow, somebody has a Tesla. Now every other car is a Tesla on the roads, and it's sort of lost that status. But when Elon Musk was devising Tesla or coming up with the idea, his vision was that, overarching vision that he wanted to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy through electric vehicles. So his starting point, he knew what he wanted to achieve, he knew what his why was, is he went and talked to investors, mostly individuals to begin with, that believed in clean energy. Nothing to do with cars. It wasn't to do, I like fancy cars that look sleek. He wasn't selling that. He was selling clean energy. And one group that he brought on was Daimler. I think I'm saying that right, Daimler, the huge auto giant in the US. And they had a similar vision to revolutionize the car industry with electric vehicles. So it was, a meeting of minds. They were interested in the same thing. But what was really clever about that is that it was also a strategic approach because while they were in the manufacturing world, Elon Musk certainly wasn't. He was in the, develop this cool car world. So the investment wasn't just financial. He was able to tap into their expertise in manufacturing and help Tesla scale their operations. And we all know how that ended. Tesla has become, probably the dominant force in the market, and has led the way. So linking that strategic vision with a company with a similar vision and actually were able to be strategic, paid dividends for Tesla. So well done, Elon. That's all I'll say about him because then he went and spent a ridiculous amount of money on Twitter, changed it to X, and just like ruined the world. We'll leave him there. So a charity example, everyone's aware, I'm sure, of Charity Water in the US. They're always the example I roll out because I admire them so, so much. And if you just see on the left-hand side there, their ad, this is actually from their website for a donor piece. Help bring clean and safe water to every person on the planet, which is a big vision. It's a tall order. But whether you are on their website, you are looking at their major donor fundraising, you look at the investment they get from major organizations, this is the underlying idea. That is just always there. It's forever present. And unlike most of the nonprofit world, they've also used that vision to go to a group of private donors that they call the Well, which I think is so clever, and the donors that in the Well cover all of their operational costs. Now, anyone who's in fundraising knows that is incredibly challenging to achieve, to go to donor and say, hey, we don't want you to pay for programs. We want you to pay for our operational costs. But that overriding single-minded, if you like, vision about bringing clean water to every person in the planet has resonated, and they've been able to do that really well. Where they got some amazing funding, and this is back to the alignment piece, through google.org. So they granted them 5 million. And the reason this alignment worked so well is that Google's priority was to use technology to solve global problems. Incredible vision from Google. But Charity Water tapped into this. So they brought a proposal to them to implement technology-driven solutions. So one example is a sensor-equipped water pump that Google have developed that actually ensures the water is big use sustainability and that it's clean, and it's giving them real-time data on the impact of their work. So another amazing partnership or investment opportunity, not only help them do their work, but also help them deliver transparency. So at any time, you can go onto their website and see how these projects are working around the world in real time. Like it's just so, so clever. And so amazing. Oh, sorry, this thing keeps, my mouse is going mad. Wonderful. So a little example a bit closer to home. That's our wonderful boss, Lisa Nicole, looking gorgeous. And Lisa Nicole was putting in for a business grant through the local enterprise office in Fingal. Now, again, Lisa Nicole had very clear what she wanted this funding for. She wanted to develop our website. She wanted to expand our office. She wanted to build up the team. But she did not go in and ask for those things. She went in, she didn't pitch for the bits. She pitched for the vision, what the vision of Mantra was, what her big, hairy, audacious goals for Mantra were, where the opportunity for Fingal was to get in on the ground floor with this. And the piece of work that she went in was to bring diversity, equity, and inclusion to grant making organizations globally to shift the dial in equity and grant making. So she was selling them the vision, and it obviously worked as we got the funding. Now all of the other detail was there, the website, the office, and all of that was all there, but it was in the budget where it belongs, not in the why. It wasn't why she was doing it. That was just what was coming out of it. So again, quite incredible to elevate it up, bring it right back up out of the weeds and into the waves. So the top tips, I guess, just recapping on that, are forget the budget gaps, know your why, Sell the car, not the clutch. Focus on pathos and aligning your interest and goals with your investor. You can't lose every time, anytime. So I might just stop there before I go on to the next one and just see if anyone has any questions. And then we might do a little bit of a workshop. I don't know if you want to turn your microphone off or just put your hand up. But I would love to hear from you. Don't leave me sitting here. Please.
I have a really random point, Julie, that
Thanks, Claire.
I love what you said about the women in homelessness services, and I work in a homelessness service, but it's just for information purposes only. First of all, thank you. That was really interesting, but it's called a dazzle of zebras, and the dazzle of zebras has the same, it's the same way they work. They work by ensuring that somebody stays awake to keep the other dazzle safe. And we used that in a campaign that we did around child sexual abuse, because we were saying the aim was be feeling like a giraffe in a world full of zebras. And I would say a zebra in a world full of giraffes. And so they were using that kind of dazzle of zebras and trying to recapture the positivity and the strength of survivors of child sexual abuse. So it was a really powerful image, and it was a really powerful kind of why, and it felt really empowering for people. So we have a lot of women in the last organization I were with zebra tattoos, which is very cool.
Oh, isn't that lovely? Thanks,
Claire. So dazzle of zebras.
Dazzle zebras. Make a note. Love an old zebra. That's great. Thanks, Claire. Is there anyone else? Any questions? Lucy, did you have your hand up there?
I just wanted to say, Julie, I'm finding this fascinating. I'm just writing so many notes, and thank you so much. This has just been the best 45 minutes I think I've had in the last few months. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh, you just gave me goosebumps there. Thanks, Lucy. That's very kind.
Including some ranting about Elon Musk, which I thought was very well done. So well done.
Don't get me started on Trump. He'll be here all day. Lovely. No, that's great. Well, it's funny you talk about that goosebumps there. I used to say this to my team all the time in the organization in Australia. You know, we're not fundraisers. We are the marketeer of goosebumps. That's our job. If we can get the goosebumps rising, the money will literally flow itself naturally. And that's lives in the why territory. It lives in the storytelling territory. Get those goosebumps going. So remember that, marketeer goosebumps. Lovely. Anybody else there? And I'll jump back in if not. Only a few minutes left. Clodagh, sorry, did you have your hand up?
No.
Nope, sorry. I'm doing that little quick zoom across the top to see. David, is there anything you'd add to this? This is obviously big in your world and your work you do with us.
David has said he's had to leave, to leave shortly.
I'm just going to actually have to fly off now, but I just love the fact that, you know, it circles back in on the why, because it's just so important. And I think that's one takeaway people have, is that, you know, it's not a, you know, it's not a nice to have. It's really core to your strategy. And a lot of people think it's an add-on, is that we'll develop our strategy first and then we'll develop some form of why. Actually, you start with why. It's the most important thing.
Definitely. Thanks, David. And David
so
does
look,
terrific
Julie,
work.
thank you. I'm going to have to fly. I've got an appointment, but great stuff. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, David. Thanks for coming along. Lovely. Well, I'll jump, and we've only a few minutes left, but I'll actually pop this screen up if I can come back to my presentation. Oh, the tech. I hate the tech.
It's coming up, Julie.
This is a little tool. Am I showing?
You need to go into full screen mode now.
Lovely. There we go. That's showing?
There you go. Yeah, perfect.
Now, this is you know, this looks awfully simple on the face of it. 3 little questions, but it's a really good tool to help you define your why, to find your why. So whether you're, again, business, charity, startup, social enterprise, social business, whatever you might be, really getting to the core of these in a sentence. So we work with clients on this, and they kind of look at it, go, oh yeah, easy. And they normally, you know, give you the mission statement back, but really drilling it down. At our core, we are about ... We believe ... And this is important because ... If you can kind of distill those 3 questions into one sentence, you're getting to the nub of the why. And I would write, this will be in the presentation. I call it sort of an envisioning worksheet. So everybody can take some time, again, take some time out, just answer those 3 questions. It will only help you kind of nail this down. It always sounds easy, but it's actually not as easy as it sounds. It's one of those things. So that is probably it. We will send this on to you. I'll talk about Mantra a little bit in a second, but is there any final questions from anyone? And again, I can only see a handful of people, so do put your hand up. No? Is there any,
I
Kira?
don't think so. I think everything's okay.
All good, wonderful.
Happy faces. Lots of happy
Good.
faces.
We like happy faces. So this is the work, just a little a quick plug for Mantra. We've sort of four elements to our business. Suzanne, who many of you will know, heads up our people and cultures work. So she does executive search, a lot of culture workshops with with various companies to really build that culture into your organization. And she does a lot of our commercial work as well. Roisin is our Director of Strategic Consulting. So she looks mostly at those org strategies end to end, and spends a lot of time in that. I head up our strategic funding and enablement. So that is everything from doing funding strategies, a lot of this why work, pitch coaching workshops. So we work with a lot of leaders to prepare them for those big, scary pitches to government. And we have a lot of frameworks to do that. And we also do a lot of interim support. So where charities have a gap in their maternity cover or whatnot, we often come in and hold the fort. And then Bruce is our director of the Leadership Institute. So we have a range of training under that banner, from DEI training to culture mapping and different types of leadership training. So big scope in Mantra. I am loving it. I've been in Mantra about a year now. I've obviously been in the nonprofit sector for a long time, about 20 years. There are like dog years, so feels a lot longer sometimes, and have both played the role of the general manager of fundraising, but also the CEO. So I feel your pain. I know your pain. I've been in your pain. And it is a challenging sector, but such a rewarding one. So it's great to be at the other side of the coin now and still be helping charities deliver their work. So if there's ever anything Mantra can do, please do reach out. We would absolutely love to hear from you. And as I said, this will all be on the video afterwards. We'll send you a link to it. So any final comments? I'd love to hear from you.
No, I've loved it. I have to say thank you so much for the invitation today.
Great feedback. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's super timing for me because I'm only new in the role, so this is amazing. Thank you.
Oh, great. Well, listen, if we can help at all, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. What was your organization? Sorry,
Operation Smiles. So we fund and fight for medical equity for children who need cleft surgeries around the world. So
amazing. Well, you should talk to Anna there on the call. Anna's been in hospital. You probably know each other well.
Yeah, she does. She knows Lucy. I think you know Lucy, Anna. Do you?
No, I don't think so.
Lucy Nugent in Tala Hospital.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she's on our board.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how you'd know her.
Yeah. I did. Just to wrap up, we actually had a presentation, a shortlisting for a corporate partnership on Monday. But one of the interesting things is that balance between the clutch and the car, because we were trying to figure out, do they want to just fund a program? So in which case we need to give them a niche little thing that can say, that's yours and you can fund that. So there's always a little bit of balancing that, selling the story and the purpose, but also kind of, if you want your name on this particular program, we can give you that too, so it's a bit about reading the room and what they want and that kind of stuff as well.
So totally is. And I guess starting with that why, but there's always going to be the place for that, absolutely. Because I guess one final thing for me, I think it took me a long time to learn this as well, that we can say no too. You do sort of sometimes sell out for the mighty euro. You'll do anything to get it across the, okay, yeah, we'll do that. We'll take 300 of your staff next Wednesday for 2 hours, and it has to be team building and hoping the money will flow. But we've tight resources and tough on time too, so not always selling out and actually being really steadfast on the type of investors that you want, and then spending your time cultivating them rather than servicing. They're not always time wasters, but sometimes they can be, but been really clear on that. It is so important. How did the pitch go, Anna? Were you?
We won't know. We got down to the last three, and then we won't know until the end of November. It goes out to a ballot of staff. So
Lovely.
it's trying to make that storytelling resonate with the staff, and
Absolutely.
this could be you kind of story. Yeah.
And we used to, in Vinnie's in Australia, it's called Vinnie's because they shorten everything, St. Vincent de Paul Society. We had a big chipboard or cork board, not a chipboard, up on the office wall that I started. And at the top it said, "This is why we do our jobs." And we would encourage every member of staff at least quarterly to get out into a service, which the services didn't always love, but they had to understand, we were trying to raise the money. We wanted everyone in the organization to have their own stories, not just what they've read in the annual report or the interview one person has done, but that they could come and when they're talking to donors or planning appeals, could say, wow, well, I was in this homeless service last week and then I met this man and this was his story. But then to come back and write that down on a little post-it note and stick it on the board. And at every team meeting, people got to share the stories that they had come across in their own travels. And it really developed this culture of storytelling across the organization, right up to the board. We would put a couple of those into every board pack so the board could see that the staff were also experiencing the organizations and that impact for people. So just a little tip. I loved it. I don't have a cork board now because I'm working from home, but I might do my own little one. But again, just a nice little tip to kind of ground people back. We get so caught up into the budget and the time of year, and we've only 3 months to fill the hole, and we sort of forget the whole purpose of why we're there and why we're doing it. So final little top tip from me. But listen, thank you all so
Julie,
much.
I would just,
Really appreciate it.
Julie, we have been asked by Marianne about our next week's session. So I just wanted to explain a little bit about the sessions. So this is our fourth of our impact culture sessions. We don't do them weekly because we thought that would be a little bit too much for everybody to have to come to the sessions. We wanted to make it a bit more manageable. So our next session is actually on the 6th of November. We do them bi-weekly. And the kind of the theme of that session is going to be, bear with me, I want to get into my right line, walking the talk, the true meaning of psychological safety and emotional culture at work. So basically the importance of the emotional culture at work. It's very different to today's topic, but it's a really important theme. And I think especially in the run up to Christmas, when people have got so much going on personally and professionally to hit targets, hit deadlines, sort out all of the Christmas stuff. We just thought it was a kind of a timely one for us at the start of November.
Great. We'll hope to see you there. But there'll be more communications going out about that, and you'll see it on LinkedIn.
Great.
Super. Well, thank you all. Really nice to put some faces to some of the names that I know, and great to meet you all. Really appreciate you joining us this morning. Keep an eye out. This will be sent as a link. We'll upload it to YouTube soon.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Julie.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.